Before we begin, this episode of Data and Dissonance contains political commentary, opinion, satire, sarcasm, and a few uncomfortable observations about the difference between public spectacle and public service. We'll be talking about the White House, war talks, midterm politics, redistricting battles, media narratives, and the growing feeling that America is being asked to stare at the fireworks while the wiring behind the wall starts smoking. Nothing in this episode is a call for violence, harassment, or blind loyalty to any politician, party, or movement. This is commentary. This is analysis. This is one man looking at the headlines, watching the pattern, and asking why the American people always seem to get the bill while everyone else gets the camera angle. So buckle up, keep your hands inside the ride, and remember, if the truth makes you uncomfortable, that doesn't make it dangerous. It just means somebody finally turned the lights on.
There are moments in American politics where you look around and realize the story isn't just the story. It's the stage, it's the lighting, it's the timing, it's the carefully placed distraction sitting right in the middle of the room like a magician waving one hand while the other hand is digging through your wallet, your rights, your future, and your patience. And right now, America feels like it is standing inside the world's loudest casino, where every screen is flashing, every commentator is yelling, every politician is fundraising, every court case is the most important case of our lifetime, every war is complicated, every election is historic. And somehow the regular American is still sitting at the kitchen table wondering how the hell groceries got this expensive and why nobody in power ever seems to run out of money for their priorities. Today we've got a White House being turned into a fight night venue, Iran talks being wrapped around midterm politics, redistricting wars already moving through the courts, and a political machine that is clearly gearing up for November like it's not an election but a cage match with donor money, lawyers, maps, and media spin instead of gloves. And look, I'm not going to pretend I don't understand the appeal of spectacle. I host a podcast called Data and Dissonance. I like loud, I like dramatic, I like a little fight in the room. But there is a difference between putting on a show and governing a nation, and somewhere along the way, Washington started treating the American people like an audience instead of citizens. And that's what tonight is about. Not just one headline, not just one event, not just one political fight. Tonight is about the bigger picture, because when the White House lawn becomes an arena, when foreign policy becomes an election calendar, when congressional maps become battlefield territory, and when every major decision is packaged like content, maybe the real question isn't whether America is divided. Maybe the real question is whether America is being managed, entertained, distracted, and redirected so often that we forget to ask who benefits from all the noise. So tonight we're calling it what it is. This is the spectacle state. Cue the music. Let's get into it. So let's start with the image, because sometimes the image tells you more than the press release. According to Reuters, construction is now underway on a mixed martial arts arena on the White House South Lawn for a June 14th UFC-style event, tied to America's 250th anniversary Flag Day and President Trump's 80th birthday. They're calling the venue The Claw, and it's expected to seat more than 4,000 spectators, with overflow viewing on the ellipse possibly handling a much larger crowd. And listen, I know some people are already going to hear that and immediately split into their assigned camps. One side will say, this is awesome, this is American, this is strength, this is Trump being Trump. The other side will act like somebody installed a Waffle House brawl cage in the Lincoln bedroom and personally suplexed democracy through a folding table. But my job here isn't to give you the lazy cable news reaction. My job is to ask what this says about where we are as a country. Because whether you love it or hate it, turning the White House lawn into a fight night venue is not just an event, it's a symbol. It tells you something about the age we're living in, where politics, entertainment, combat sports, patriotism, and personal branding all get thrown into the same blender and served to the public with a sparkler in it. And honestly, I'm not even saying that from some pearl-clutching, oh heavens, the dignity of Washington place, because let's not pretend Washington was ever some monastery of virtue where serious men in powdered wigs whispered about liberty while angels played violins in the background. Washington has always had spectacle: parades, ceremonies, pageantry, press conferences, state dinners, campaign rallies, televised hearings, patriotic backdrops, and enough red, white, and blue bunting to choke a bald eagle. The difference now is that the spectacle is becoming the thing. It's not just wrapping paper around government anymore. It's the product. It's the point. It's the attention economy. with a presidential seal nearby, and that should make everybody pause for at least half a second before we start arguing about whether the cage should have cup holders and VIP seating. Because while everyone is staring at the cage, the world is still moving. The Guardian reported today that Trump accused Iran of stalling peace negotiations to try to outwait him until after the U.S. midterms. That is a massive statement because it takes foreign policy, war pressure, diplomacy, oil routes, military threats, and election timing, and jams all of it into one sentence. Trump's argument is basically that Iran thinks it can wait him out politically, hoping the midterms weaken him or change the leverage. Now, maybe he's right. Maybe Iran is watching American politics like a poker table and waiting to see who blinks. Foreign governments do that. They always have. They study our elections. They study our divisions. They study our news cycle. They know when America's distracted. But here's the problem. When foreign policy becomes welded to campaign season, the American people have to ask a very serious question. Are decisions being made because they're right for the country or because they look strong on television before November? And that's not me being anti-Trump. That's me being pro-American. There is a difference. You can support Trump, vote for Trump, defend a lot of his policies, believe he is better than the alternatives, and still say, hold on, I want every military decision, every peace negotiation, every strike, every blockade, every threat, and every deal to be judged by whether it protects American lives and American interests, not whether it makes a great campaign clip. That should not be controversial. That should be basic citizenship. But in the spectacle state, everything becomes content. War becomes content. Peace talks become content. Gas prices become content. Cabinet meetings become content. Even uncertainty becomes content because uncertainty keeps people glued to the screen. And while we are glued to the screen, nobody bothers to ask why the same working class families are always the ones expected to pay when the price of oil spikes, when deployment tempo rises, when shipping lanes get threatened, when inflation creeps back in, or when some genius in a suit says, don't worry, this will stabilize eventually. And look at the oil market reaction, because this is where the real world punches through the political theater. Reuters reported that oil settled about 5% lower today as investors waited for updates on U.S.-Iran peace deal talks, with markets reacting to possible movement around the Strait of Hormuz and broader tension in the region. That means while pundits are screaming, while politicians are posturing, and while the public is being handed patriotic theater, people with billions of dollars on the line are watching the fine print. They're watching whether a deal actually happens. They're watching shipping lanes. They're watching whether the strait opens wider or gets threatened again. They're watching whether words from Washington turn into policy or just another headline. And if the money people are watching the details, then regular Americans damn sure better be watching them too. Because when the details go sideways, it's not the donor class choosing between filling the gas tank or buying groceries. It's you. It's me. It's families driving to work, truckers hauling freight, small businesses paying delivery costs, and parents standing in a grocery aisle wondering why everything that used to be normal now feels like a luxury item. That's the part of the spectacle state that drives me insane. The public gets emotion. The insiders get information. The public gets slogans. The insiders get strategy. The public gets fight night imagery. The insiders get maps, legal briefs, backroom calls, donor meetings, and market positioning. And then, when regular people finally start asking questions, they get told they're too cynical, too angry, too tribal, too dumb, too conspiratorial, or too negative. No, people are not cynical because they hate America. People are cynical because they've watched America get sold 100 different versions of trust us. And somehow the same people always get richer while the same people always get lectured. And speaking of maps and machinery, let's talk midterms because this is where the show gets very real very fast. Reuters reported that Alabama has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to allow a pro-Republican congressional map after a lower court blocked it, saying the map likely discriminates against black voters and could not be used in the 2026 elections. Alabama argues the court-backed alternative would cause irreparable harm and create a racially gerrymandered result. Now I know redistricting makes people's eyes glaze over because it sounds like one of those topics invented by a bored lawyer trapped in a basement with graph paper. But redistricting is power. It decides which voters get grouped together, which districts become safe, which seats become competitive, and which party walks into election night already holding a loaded deck. It's not sexy, but it is one of the most important fights in American politics. And here is where I'm going to say something that may annoy both sides. Every party wants favorable maps when it can get them. Republicans do it. Democrats do it. They may use different moral language. They may accuse each other of different sins. They may hold press conferences with different facial expressions, but the goal is the same: power. The only difference is who gets to define fairness at the moment the lines are being drawn. Republicans will say they're protecting political representation from judges who are overstepping. Democrats will say they're protecting minority voting power from partisan maps designed to dilute representation. Both sides will show up with lawyers, experts, charts, precedent, outrage, and fundraising links. And regular Americans will sit there trying to figure out whether their vote actually matters or whether the game was half decided before the ballot even got printed. That's why I keep coming back to the same theme. The spectacle is loud, but the machinery is quiet. The UFC cage gets the attention, the Iran comments get the headlines, the cabinet room remarks get clipped. The cable shows get their yelling points, but the machinery is court filings, the machinery is district maps, the machinery is negotiations that move oil prices, the machinery is donor networks, the machinery is primary endorsements. The machinery is who controls the calendar, who controls the narrative, who controls the legal battlefield, and who controls what regular people are told to care about today. And if you only follow the spectacle, you'll always be one step behind the machinery. Now, to be fair, spectacle can be useful. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it has no value. A big patriotic event can bring people together. A bold visual can project confidence. A president using culture, sports, and entertainment to reach normal Americans is not automatically a bad thing. Honestly, one reason Trump connects with people is because he understands that politics is no longer happening only through white papers and Sunday shows. It happens through emotion, image, momentum, and culture. Democrats used Hollywood for decades and acted like it was noble civic engagement, so they don't get to suddenly faint because Trump uses UFC energy instead of another boring donor dinner with people eating tiny chicken on plates bigger than their mortgage payment. Spare me the selective outrage. The left has been putting politics into entertainment forever. They just hate it when someone else gets better ratings. But support should not mean sleepwalking. That's the line. You can enjoy the spectacle without being hypnotized by it. You can like Trump's fighter energy without outsourcing your brain. You can laugh at the media meltdown without ignoring serious questions. You can think the UFC event is bold, funny, and completely on brand while still asking, okay, what else is happening while everyone is staring at this? Because that is the responsibility of an engaged citizen, not to be joyless, not to be paranoid, not to assume every event is a secret plot, but to understand that modern politics is layered. The front layer is emotion, the back layer is power. And the people who only react to the front layer are the easiest people in the world to manipulate. And that brings us to the media, because you already know how this is going to go. A good chunk of the press is going to spend days acting like the White House lawn has been transformed into the fall of Rome with nachos. They'll bring on historians, former officials, ethics experts, probably a retired colonel, maybe some sad MSNBC panelist who looks like he just watched the Constitution get body slammed through a folding chair. And some of that criticism might be worth hearing, but a lot of it will be performative, because these same institutions had no problem turning politics into entertainment when it benefited their side. They loved celebrity endorsements, late-night lectures, award show politics, activist athletes, social media campaigns, and carefully staged symbolism. They just don't like this kind of symbolism because it doesn't belong to them. At the same time, conservative media has its own trap. The trap is turning every criticism into proof that the thing being criticized must be good. That's lazy too. Just because CNN cries about something does not automatically mean it's genius. Sometimes CNN cries because they're dramatic, sometimes they cry because they're hypocrites, and sometimes, buried underneath the theatrical sobbing, there might be a real question worth asking. That's where conservatives have to be smarter. We can mock the meltdown, but we shouldn't become allergic to scrutiny. If we believe in limited government, constitutional restraint, American sovereignty, fiscal sanity, and accountability, then those principles should still matter when our guy is in charge. Otherwise, we're not a movement. We're just fans wearing different jerseys. And I say that as someone who understands exactly why people are tired of lectures from the political class. People are sick of being told to respect institutions that don't respect them back. They're sick of being called extremists for wanting borders, budgets, safety, sanity, and a country that doesn't treat citizens like background extras in a global management project. They're sick of foreign policy experts who are wrong for 20 years and still get invited back with better lighting. They're sick of media people who burned public trust to the ground and then complained about the smoke. They're sick of judges, bureaucrats, politicians, lobbyists, consultants, and activists acting like democracy only counts when the outcome matches their preferred hashtag. But being sick of the old system doesn't mean we stop thinking. In fact, it means we have to think harder, because the spectacle state works best when people are exhausted. It works best when people are angry. It works best when people are so tired of hypocrisy that they stop holding anyone accountable, and that's the danger. Not that people cheer a fight night event, not that Trump says something combative about Iran, not that Alabama fights over a congressional map. The danger is that Americans become so conditioned to constant chaos that they stop distinguishing between entertainment, governance, strategy, and manipulation. That is where we are right now. We are living in a country where everything is a campaign ad, everything is a culture war object, everything is monetized, everything is clipped, everything is turned into a team sport, and everything serious has to compete with the next shiny object. And maybe the cage on the White House lawn is the perfect symbol for that, because America itself feels like it's being pushed into a cage sometimes. One side screaming from one corner, one side screaming from the other. Referees nobody trusts, commentators making money off the blood pressure, sponsors everywhere, and regular people in the stands wondering when somebody is going to fix the price of eggs, the border, the debt, the schools, the roads, the VA backlog, the housing market, and the fact that nobody seems to believe anything anymore. So no, I'm not going to tell you the cage is the end of the republic. I'm also not going to tell you it's the greatest patriotic idea since fireworks and Toby Keith. What I'm saying is this: watch the show, but follow the machinery. Laugh at the media meltdown, but read the fine print. Support strength, but demand wisdom. Back your side, but keep your standards. Because the country does not need more blind fans. It needs citizens with a spine, a memory, and enough common sense to know when they're being entertained instead of informed. And that's the episode tonight. The spectacle is loud, the machinery is quiet, and the American people better learn to hear both.
Tonight's merch drop is for everybody who's tired of living in the middle of the circus, but still refuses to surrender their sense of humor. Because let's be honest, if America is going to turn politics into a full contact sport, then Data and Dissonance might as well be the unofficial gear table outside the arena. We've got the kind of merch that says what everyone else is thinking, but is too scared to put on a hoodie. Bold shirts, hats, mugs, bumper stickers, and attitude for people who still believe common sense should not require a trigger warning. Whether you're sipping coffee before work, walking into a family barbecue, or silently judging the news from your couch like a founding father with back pain, we've got something for you. Grab the Data and Dissonance gear, support the show, and help keep independent commentary alive without corporate handlers, donor-approved scripts, or some focus-grouped nonsense written by a guy named Preston who thinks working class is a coffee shop aesthetic. Every purchase helps us keep the lights on, keep the mic hot, and keep speaking truth in a world that keeps trying to turn facts into feelings and feelings into policy. So hit the merch store, find something that matches your level of patriotic sarcasm, and wear it like armor. Because these days, apparently even common sense needs a uniform.
At the end of the day, what bothers me most is not that politics has become entertaining. Politics has always had drama. America has always had pageantry. Every era had its speeches, rallies, posters, slogans, music, symbols, and showmen. That part is not new. What feels different now is how much of the serious work of the country seems to be happening behind layers of performance. You get the fight night visual, you get the clipped quote, you get the viral outrage, you get the pundit screaming match, you get the meme, you get the fundraising email, you get the "this is the most important election ever" speech for the 700th time. But underneath all of that, the real questions remain painfully normal. Are we safer? Are we freer? Are families doing better? Are our leaders being honest? Are we actually solving problems? Or are we just getting better production value on the collapse? And that is why I think Americans have to be careful right now, not scared, not hopeless, not black-pilled into sitting on the couch acting like nothing matters. careful, awake, aware, because we are entering another political season where every institution, every campaign, every activist group, every media outlet, every foreign government, every donor network, every algorithm, and every wannabe influencer is going to try to grab a piece of your attention and weaponize it. They want you angry. They want you reactive. They want you tribal. They want you so busy yelling at the screen that you forget to watch the hands moving the levers. And that is where independent thinking matters. That is where shows like this matter. Not because I have all the answers, because I damn sure do not, but because I'm willing to ask the questions out loud while too many people are still clapping for the fireworks. And yes, I support strength. I support America projecting power. I support a president who does not walk into a room acting like he needs permission from Europe, China, Iran, the UN, CNN, or a panel of emotionally unstable college professors before defending American interests. But strength without wisdom becomes ego. Spectacle without substance becomes noise. Loyalty without accountability becomes weakness dressed up as patriotism. And I refuse to be the kind of person who only cares about principles when the other side violates them. If we say America first, then America has to come first. Not the campaign, not the party, not the donor class, not the headline, not the viral clip, not the ego trip, not the theater. America, its citizens, its families, its workers, its veterans, its borders, its economy, its future. So tonight, enjoy the spectacle if you want, laugh at the meltdown, watch the press lose its mind, watch the left pretend they never mixed politics with entertainment before, watch the right celebrate the optics, that's all fine. But after you laugh, after you scroll, after you shake your head, ask the grown-up questions. What is happening in the courts? What is happening with Iran? What is happening with oil? What is happening with the midterms? What is happening with redistricting? What is happening while everyone is distracted by the loudest thing in the room? Because that is where the future gets shaped, not always under the spotlight, sometimes in the paperwork, sometimes in the maps, sometimes in the negotiations, sometimes in the fine print. And that's where I'll leave it tonight. We don't need to be humorless. We don't need to be paranoid. We don't need to become the kind of miserable people who think every joke is dangerous and every event is the end of democracy. But we also don't need to be hypnotized. We can be entertained and still be awake. We can support strong leadership and still demand accountability. We can mock media hypocrisy and still ask hard questions. We can love this country enough to enjoy the show without forgetting that citizenship is not a spectator sport. So keep your eyes open, keep your standards high, and never let the spectacle keep you from seeing the machine behind it. Remember to speak truth, stir thought.
Tonight's episode of Data and Dissonance is brought to you by the Caleb Rourke Thriller series. Where the lies are buried deep, the danger is personal, and the truth does not come quietly. If you like stories packed with conspiracy, betrayal, military pressure, buried secrets, and one man trying to survive a world where every answer creates a bigger threat, then this is the series for you. Start with The Covenant Protocol, the book that throws Caleb Rourke into a shadow war where powerful people will do anything to keep the truth hidden. Then keep going with The Prophet Directive, where the stakes get darker, the enemies get closer, and Caleb starts realizing the system he is fighting may be bigger than anything he imagined. And don't forget Black Echo Rising, the next piece of the puzzle, where the echoes of the past start turning into threats no one can ignore. The Caleb Rourke Thriller series is available on Amazon. Pick it up, dive in, and support independent storytelling from the same mind behind Data and Dissonance. Because whether it's fiction, politics, or the headlines we break down every night, one thing stays the same. The truth always has enemies.